Kelly Loss, the librarian for the Center for the Study of Ethics and Professions here at the Illinois Institute of Technology. And this video is meant to help you gain a better understanding of some of the ethical questions that can arise when your Ipro is working with a sponsoring organization. In it, I discuss a little bit about some of the ways you can use ethics to strengthen your relationship with your sponsoring organization. Our hope is that after this introduction, your Ipro team will take some time to discuss these issues as a group and figure out some guidelines for how you'd like to move forward with how you communicate with your sponsor. One of the first issues that Ipros with sponsors face is how they should think about their team's relationship with their sponsoring organization. Is this relationship similar to that of a student and a professor, members of the same team, or should it be more like an employee and employer? Why, in fact, do organizations choose to sponsor an Ipro? Organizations usually choose to sponsor an Ipro class for a number of reasons. Supporting an Ipro brings new and energetic perspectives to a problem or issue that a company may face, while also allowing the sponsor the chance to provide a unique educational opportunity to IIT students. This sponsorship strengthens the organization's ties with the IIT community and may lead to future collaborations with the university or opportunities to recruit new employees from IIT's talented student population. When sponsoring an Ipro, an organization not only provides funding for the Ipro class, they also often supply employee time, information, intellectual property, and other resources needed to make your Ipro a success. One way to look at your collaboration with your Ipro sponsor is that of a consultant with a client. In lieu of monetary payment, you get to be involved in a unique experience during which you not only access the time and resources of your sponsor organization, but also have the chance to learn unique skills that you would likely be able to learn in a traditional classroom setting. In your Ipro, you are a representative of the university. If you've impressed your sponsor, they may be interested in continuing to sponsor an Ipro class, continue to work with IIT, and maybe fund other projects at the university, and maybe recruit future employees from the university. So just like a consultant who should want to continue a successful partnership, you and your team will want to build a professional relationship with your client. And these types of relationships come with responsibilities. These include values like integrity, transparency, confidentiality, and accountability. Some of the following I talk about may seem self-evident, but it's a good idea to think about some of these issues as a team early in the semester so that they are in the forefront of your mind when you start working with your sponsor. Integrity is the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles. Integrity is especially important in Ipros that involve a sponsor because it helps build trust between all the parties involved. The sponsor can be sure that you and your teammates will handle the information, materials, and other resources they give you access to in a proper way, and that you will do the best you can on the project you are working on. Anyone who's ever worked in a situation where you can't trust each other knows how difficult it is to get good results in a group like this, when you are constantly looking over your shoulder or having to second guess what others are doing. Try and approach all of your communications with your sponsor in a professional and straightforward manner. Invite them to team meetings if they have time, and be sure to share results with them in a timely manner. All of these actions can help build trust and showcase the integrity of your team. Transparency is the value of being clear and forthcoming about information and actions being taken. When something is transparent, we can see right through it like a window. A window or a pane of glass does not alter or hide things, but shows things in their true form. In the same way, your team should give clear and truthful answers to questions your sponsor may ask of you throughout the semester. Transparency, like integrity, helps build trust between you and your sponsor, and you and your teammates as well. Open communication is the key component to transparency. As for transparency to work, it is essential that a person feel able to share information even when it might be uncomfortable to do so. In this way, transparency is important in any sort of team environment. It allows team members to ask questions or admit mistakes and to not try and cover up things, a practice that can lead to larger issues down the line. One example of how transparency can work is the 1982 Johnson & Johnson Tylenol crisis. In that year, for no known reason, someone replaced Tylenol extra-strength capsules with cyanide-laced capsules, which resealed the bottles and deposited them on the shelves of Chicago area pharmacies and food stores. 7 people died due to this, and Johnson & Johnson, the parent company of the manufacturer of Tylenol, had to explain to its customer base why their product was killing people. When Johnson & Johnson chairman James Burke first heard about this, he immediately reacted by withdrawing all Tylenol products from the shelves of Chicago area stores. When 2 more contaminated bottles were found, he ordered a nationwide removal of all Tylenol products. The company used PR and paid advertising to alert the public not to use Tylenol products. The company then did not know what had caused the problem, but were transparent about the facts and went to great lengths to protect the public with their warnings and efforts to design tamper-proof packaging. If you've ever tried to open a Tylenol bottle, you know how hard it can get open, how hard it is to get open. The initial product withdrawal cost the company millions of dollars, but the resulting public media coverage helped build public trust in the brand, and overall helped Tylenol to continue to be a household name. This is perhaps one of the most dramatic stories of how transparency can be used to help a company protect their reputation and build a better relationship with their customers, but it highlights the importance of this virtue in any professional relationship. Confidentiality is probably the biggest ethical issue that teams with sponsors face, and for good reason. Confidentiality is the act of keeping certain information that has been entrusted to you private, or only sharing it with a limited group of people who are involved with furthering the certain ends or goals, as you are, such as members of your Ipros team. Usually this information has some sort of value attached to it, such as information that could give others a competitive advantage if known. This kind of information could include marketing strategies, information on product design and manufacture, customer or supplier lists, or other information of this kind. Because this information is some of the most valuable assets a business may have, most professional and workplace codes of ethics mention the need for confidentiality and the duty of employers and contractors to respect the intellectual property of the business in their code of ethics. Companies will often go to great lengths to protect this valuable commodity, and because of the importance of this information, you have a heightened ethical duty to be very careful of how you handle confidential information of your sponsor. Some companies may even ask you to sign a contract that lays out how the information should be protected as you use it in your Ipros project. A confidentiality or non-disclosure agreement is one way in which businesses seek to protect their confidential or valuable information. This is a legal contract that allows them to share this information with outside individuals without the fear of having it become widely known. When you sign a non-disclosure agreement, you usually agree not to share proprietary information or information not generally known to the public with outside individuals. Usually, this non-disclosure agreement limits you to only sharing this information with others on a need-to-know basis, such as other members of your Ipros team. If for some reason you or a member of your team thinks this proprietary information, the company who had you sign the non-disclosure agreement in the first place has the right to take action against you and may even sue for damages in a court of law. When signing non-disclosure agreements, you want to make sure to read the entire document before you sign it and ask questions if anything seems unclear. Non-disclosure agreements are a binding contract that can include provisions that may limit not only how you share proprietary information, but how you can use the final product of your Ipros. These agreements often are used to protect business interests of the company beyond the time you are working with them. Some non-disclosure agreements can also include a non-compete clause. This clause is meant to keep you from using the confidential information you have access to for the benefit of a competitor. So for instance, if you sign a non-disclosure agreement with a non-compete clause with an employer, this clause would prevent you from quitting and begin working with a competitor or starting your own business that exploits the confidential information of your former employer. There are, however, limits on non-compete clauses. They usually can only be enforced insofar as they are needed to protect the employer and can only go as far as preventing an employer or contractor from entering into direct competition with their former employer or client. So, for example, if you worked to design a website for a furniture company in Georgia, their non-compete clause may prevent you from designing a similar website for furniture companies in that area for a period of, say, 5 years. They could not stop you from designing websites altogether. So you always want to be careful when you're asked to sign any kind of document and be sure you fully understand its contents. If you have questions, ask your faculty sponsor or Ipros office or the Ipros office for assistance. Regardless of whether or not you sign a non-disclosure agreement, you do have an ethical duty to protect the confidentiality of sensitive data that your sponsor has shared with you. So how should you be sure to do this? First, you want to be sure to talk with your sponsor's representative if you have questions as to what counts as confidential data, and respect the guidelines they set. If they ask you to not take pictures while touring their manufacturing facility, don't take pictures. If you need to ask for some advice and need to share proprietary information with an outside individual to do so, be sure to clear things with your sponsor before going forward. Keep your sponsor's confidential data in a safe place. Be sure not to leave papers or laptops lying around, and put appropriate passwords on computer files. You may also want to be very careful what you send via email, Dropbox, or other file sharing sites, as electronic data might not be as secure as you think it is. And finally, think before you post. Social media sites such as YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook are a great way of sharing the progress of your iPro with the wider community, but you will want to make sure you are not sharing confidential data or information in your posts. Also, be sure to ask your sponsor if you have any questions about what types of data or information that you can share with judges and guests on Ipro Day. There are ways to share the progress of your team with the IoT community in a way that keeps sensitive data confidential. Accountability is the last item that I would like to discuss in this video. Accountability is being answerable for your own actions, both good and bad. If something goes incredibly well and you and your team are responsible for this, the accountability calls you to step forward and receive congratulations. If, however, something goes wrong, accountability requires you to step forward and see what can be done to fix this problem. Accountability works on both an individual and a team level. For example, if you say you're going to complete a budget for your Ipro team on Wednesday and that day passes, you're likely going to face the annoyance of your fellow team members. If, on the other hand, you fail to put the final touches on a presentation you're going to give to your sponsor on the progress of your Ipro, the sponsor is likely to hold the entire team accountable, regardless of which individual was responsible for making sure that the presentation was done on time. Accountability, like all the other virtues I have mentioned in this video, is something that is tied to the reputation of the entire group. When one person fails, it can sometimes tarnish our view of an entire group, organization, or company. When one person shows integrity, it's likely that a group's whole reputation is going to go up in the eyes of its sponsor. To sum up, Ipros with a sponsor have a number of ethical duties they will want to keep in mind as the semester progresses. It is a good idea to treat your relationship with your sponsor like that between a consultant and a client. Your goal is to impress your sponsor if they would like to work with you and IIT again. In this relationship, your Ipro wants to build trust between yourself and your sponsoring organization, and be transparent about what it is your team is actually doing and how you're handling the materials and information that your sponsor has shared with you. You want to be extremely careful to keep all proprietary data confidential, and be sure to ask your sponsor if you have any questions on how this data can be used or can be shared with outside parties. As a part of an Ipro team, you are also accountable for the work being done not only by you, but also by your fellow members of your team. So take the next few minutes to talk with your teammates about how you want to approach communications with your sponsor. You'll want to think about who will be in charge of communicating with them, how often you want to share your team's progress with your sponsor, and who in the organization you can contact with any questions you may have. You'll want to think about what type of confidential information your team will have access to and what actions you will want to take to make sure that this information is kept protected. If you have any questions about anything I've talked about in this video, please contact the Center for the Study of Ethics and the Professions in Herman Hall with them. Thank you.